This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
I'm Georgia and welcome to Finding Hope, the podcast that reminds you of the good in the world. And this episode, we're doing something a bit different. Episode 51, a mid-year check-in. Well, we're officially halfway through the year. I can't decide if it's gone fast or slow. The last couple of months especially have felt so long, with shorter days, so many winter bugs and flus going around, and the cost of living crisis continuing to put pressure on so many. It can be easy to feel like the darkness is overwhelming and that there's no hope. Personally, I've really struggled with my mental health this year. So wherever you are right now, whatever burdens or stresses that you're carrying at the moment, I hope that at least just for the next few minutes, you can lay them down and we can be here together. I'd love to revisit some of my favourite moments from the last few episodes, and in doing so, hopefully give you some tangible ways that you can inject a little more hope into your own life. So, without further ado, this is Finding Hope's 3-point method to get more hope into your life for the rest of 2023. Number 1, rest your mind. This tip comes from Lisa Galati, who I spoke to in episodes 46 and 47. Lisa Galati is someone who is well acquainted with death, so much so that she's actually dubbed herself the accidental grief expert. She's lost both her parents, 2 of her siblings, and her first husband. Walking through so much loss has made her tender, but it's also made her strong. Lisa shares how grief has affected her high-pressure career as a lawyer and shares advice and encouragement for those going through similar journeys. In this grab in particular, she encourages us to unplug our minds from the daily grind in order to truly rest.
Just as we need sleep to rest and recover, we also need to give our minds rest as well. And so, that needs to happen in the active part of our days, where you need to sort of take short periods to reset and recharge and get ready for the next item on the agenda. So that's why I think it's really worthwhile to schedule some time out. If you're going to have lots of meetings, it's really important to make them slightly shorter than you might want, so you've got the 5 or 10 minutes in between to reset yourself. And also the same with your daily life, even if it doesn't involve meetings, but maybe it involves lots of different activities. I think it's really important, rather than jumping from one to the next, to be able to just take a pause.
It seems like such a simple thing to do, but it's so good to be reminded of this. And you can listen to more of Lisa's story in episodes 46 and 47. Number 2, listen to the silence. It sounds a bit counterintuitive, right? I mean, what can silence say if it's quiet? I actually think this is a similar tip to number 1, rest your mind, but also different in a few ways. You're not actively turning your mind off. You're simply ridding yourself of distractions in order to fully concentrate on what the silence needs to say to you. And the concept of silence presents itself in different ways. It may not be the physical absence of noise. Maybe you just need to rid yourself of distractions in order to hear what nature is telling you, or what your own thoughts are telling you, or what God might be telling you. Whatever you find in the silence of your mind, it is so important to make room for it. I was reminded of this by Iona Rossely, who I spoke to in episode 49. Iona Rossely is a teacher, a speaker, an author, and a former international sporting champion. She's represented Great Britain in speed skiing, and she rode for 12 years on the Irish equestrian team. She found God after a life-altering skiing crash in the World Championship trials, and she now lives to be, in her words, competitive for God. Iona currently resides in the Northern Rivers on a farm with her many animals, but during the COVID lockdowns here in Australia, she was separated from her husband for 11 months, when he got stuck overseas on a work trip as the borders shut. So Iona spent a lot of her time in the silence and learnt a lot by simply sitting there and listening.
There's a Lebanese monk called Saint Charbel, and he said, God is in the silence. And he said, if you don't understand my silence, you will not understand my words. And when during COVID happened, and there was not a plane in the sky, there was no cars on the road, and you're sitting on your own in a farm in the middle of nowhere, you feel the presence of God, and I just felt God's hands wrapped around the earth, like he was, regardless of what we thought about COVID, he was still holding everyone together. And I know it was traumatic times, but during those traumatic times, many, many people, he would have been drawing them closer, because he just stepped in and showed people that, he's still in control. And I think, he says, we've got to keep our eyes on heaven and things above. And it was a time of contemplation, and it's changed me a lot. Yeah, but I'd say in a good way. Just, I do like my silence. It's very difficult when you've got 7 dogs. But,
And the final tip, number 3, don't be afraid to start doing something that you love. This tip is from Megan Owen Cox, who was on the most recent episode, episode 50. Megan is a force of nature. In 2011, she escaped an abusive marriage and religious cult, fleeing from Germany to the USA with 4 small children in tow. The next year, she developed a non-profit to serve single mothers like herself who were leaving abuse without support. And in 2021, she started her very own counselling practice as a pastoral trauma counsellor. She spoke to me about the act of starting that therapy practice and how healing it's been for her.
I try to go where I see there's a need. And that's just kind of how I've lived my life for the past 15 years or so. I actually was a chaplain in a hospital 2 months before COVID hit. And so I knew exactly what I was doing there, why I was supposed to be there. I was there for about 6 months. It was always going to be a temporary job. Then I heard that the suicide call rate for the state of Colorado had gone up by 7,000% because of COVID. So I went over there and I did that for about 6 months. And then I was quarantined up here in my office. I was quarantined and my children were bringing me food because I'd been exposed. And I was laying on my yoga mat and I knew. God said, it's time. It's rare to have a trauma-informed counselor who can bring in a pastoral perspective, who also has lived experience. And I can say, yeah, I've been there. I've done that. I know how hard it is to be healing from trauma when you're trying to raise your children. I know what that's like to feel unwanted by your family. And so it's a unique practice. Yeah, it's been I've loved every minute of it.
Now, of course, a drastic change, like completely changing careers, isn't for everyone. But I think the premise, the message of what Megan is saying, can be applied to us all. Whether it's a new job, a sport, a hobby, or just something you want to try that makes you happy, start it. Start it no matter if you're good at it. You don't need to be perfect. If it gives you a little bit of hope and a little bit of happiness, I think that is enough reason. And sometimes just those simple things, allowing ourselves to be happy just for a little bit, is enough to get us through the darkness and back into the light. So there it is, your 3-point checklist on how to get more hope into your life. Number 1, rest your mind. Number 2, listen to the silence. And number 3, don't be afraid to start something you love. I'd love to just throw a fourth tip in there, a little bonus one from me, not based on a conversation that I've had. But that is to keep talking to God. Even if you don't want to, even if you feel abandoned by him, even if you can't physically say the words, God knows your heart, so just keep it open to him. He is always there with you through it all, even if you don't feel it. I'm Georgia, and thank you for listening to this episode of Finding Hope. I hope it was really helpful for you. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. And if you or someone you know has a story of hope to share and you'd like to be interviewed, I'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment on the Finding Hope page at hopepodcasts.com.au, and that information is in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me for this very special mini episode. I will catch you next time with another story. For now, I'll leave you with this verse. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, and the hope of the poor shall not perish forever. Psalm 9, verse 18.
This is a Hope 1032 production. Thanks for listening.